How's it going, everybody? My name's Ryan, he's Abby, and we are the Expansion Bros, ready to get started with our brand new podcast, episode number 1. Something that, yes, we started a little bit ago, didn't really be consistent with it, and life got in the way, but today we are ready to bring you one episode a week every Monday. Get to start your week off with a little bit of Sabres talk, a little bit of Canucks talk, and a little bit of hockey talk and maybe some other stuff in between there. Abby's obviously our Canucks aficionado. I am the Sabres guy. And if you're new here, make sure you subscribe or follow on any podcast platform that you may be on, whether on YouTube or else. But Abby, you got to be doing better than I am right now, aren't you?
Oh, yes, sir. I went to the Canucks game last night. I got to see my hero have his number put up in the Ring of Honor. I got to see... for listeners, I'm currently turning around and showing off my Demko jersey. I got to see him channel his inner Roberto Luongo and carry the Canucks to a 30-plus save shutout victory.
Huge for me in fantasy, by the way.
I'm glad. Huge for me in real life because people know me as the Thatcher Demko fan. I went to another game recently, actually. I think it was Nashville, where they beat him 5-2, and some people from my school went as well, and they recall me as the guy yelling every time Demko did something good. So,
this season he's doing a lot of good. What
yes.
Like, what's his save percentage? Isn't he like having a ridiculous? It's .923 and a .230 goal against average. I don't know if he can keep those numbers up all year, but I don't think he's the only reason you guys are so hot. So I guess today's episode we'll just start with the Canucks because I really don't have anything good to talk about the Sabres. So we'll kick that down the road.
No, we'll get to that, but
yikes.
I think Demko, you saying he can't do better. I think he can, man. He's had a bit of a slide recently to get to 923 and 2.3. I think he can get back up, 2.25, 925. Those are things he can aim for.
When's the last time somebody did that over a season? Like, I mean, nowadays goalies like 910, you're getting lucky. Like, you've got a good goalie if you're like 2.4 in a 910.
No, absolutely. But I think the Canucks have a lot better structure this year. I think Tocchet has totally changed them, I loved Bruce Boudreau. Bruce, there it is, But Bruce Boudreau was very much someone who helped someone like Kuzmenko succeed at scoring goals. He was an offensive-minded coach. Tocchet is someone who's brought a lot of structure to the Canucks. So I think it's been good in terms of the defense and the forwards getting back on the back check, as well as the defensive structure itself. And obviously additions we've made in Susi, who's been injured, unfortunately, but Ian Cole, Philip Hronik, of course, and most recently Zadorov. It all kind of shores things up defensively. And we're on offense a lot more than we're on defense compared to last year. So best offense is a good defense, and the best defense is a good offense.
Absolutely. And I mean, the Canucks, I love watching you guys. Quinn Hughes, absolute monster this year. I mean, JT Miller, he's on pace for 41 goals this year. A 40-goal season would be massive for him. Brock Besser with 22. He's not even your leading goal scorer. I'm just talking JT Miller. I'm just looking at the box score stats, and I'm sure, I'll catch a Vancouver game or two, but just looking at the stats, you guys, your top guys are producing, and that's really what you need, right? Like Demko, you're paying him, he's producing. You got Quinn Hughes, Captain Quinn, with the phenomenal season. He's just on an absolute tear.
He's tied for 5th in points, not among defensemen. Among everyone, tied for 5th among points.
Where's JT Miller? He's at JT 43.
Miller is 2nd. He has 2nd in the league behind only Kucherov, clear of McKinnon by 2 points.
I'm sure McDavid, with that bender he's on, he's going to be up there soon.
That's tomorrow's problem. We ain't worried about that right now. He's not there yet. Also, Pettersson, who's been pretty bad lately, tied for 8th in scoring as well among points. So even though he's cooled off a little bit, he's cooled down to a point per game pace in the second part. So I think that's a pretty good pace to cool down to.
Yeah, Pettersson, he's got 38 and 30. We'll get to the Sabres, but I'd take anybody at a point per game at this rate.
Yeah. It's a pleasant surprise for sure. It's a very, very pleasant surprise.
Well, I'm just like goals for per game, 3.83, and goals against 2.47. So sub 2.5 against per. You're outscoring your opponents by an average of 1.3 goals per game. That is crazy. That means like every night over the course of 30 games, you guys have scored one more goal per game than your like. That's crazy.
I think that's how you win games. If you score at least one more goal
Well,
than your opponent, I think that's usually how you end up winning a game.
well, maybe it's, somebody should, we should send that to the Buffalo Sabres because they haven't figured that part out yet. But so
Hey, addition is hard.
Yeah, scoring is hard and defending is not easy. I don't know if you saw that clip against us against Colorado.
Yeah. I think you're the one who
shift.
showed me.
That's
a rough one. Yeah.
But we'll stay on the Canucks for now. We'll save. I got to bring the Sabres into everything, obviously. But with the Canucks, one of the things I did do some research because I wanted to see okay, I know you guys are flying. I know you guys are killing it. But I wanted to see is this real? Is this a mirage? It's 30 games in, right? We got a decent sample size, so you can start to take some notes from the analytics and the stats. And for those of you that are new to the podcast, this is episode 1. But if you guys don't know me from my prior work, I'm a big analytics guy, so you're going to hear a lot of that talk.
Big numbers nerd.
Big numbers guy, yeah. So I do watch the games, so don't come at me with I watch them. I watch them as much as I can. But taking a look at just your expected goals for according to Evolving Hockey. I love Evolving Hockey. They're where I go to for the majority of my advanced analytics. The Canucks are only sitting there at a 48.8% expected goals for percentage. That means out of all the expected goals that your team is generating, you're only generating 48% of them in the entire game, right? So you guys are actually getting bailed out by Demko. It's really your goaltending and your opponent's lack of finishing right now is what the analytics are saying. Your goals for percentage, just straight up how many are scored, is sitting at 61.65. So you guys are, just blowing your expected goals percentage out of the water. You are hogging the goal share, which I don't know how sustainable it is, but you guys have racked up enough points where if you can figure out how to get that expected goals percentage up, I think then it's sustainable. But right now, I'd be worried about a bit of a regression come the turn of the new year. You're hyped, you're happy. You started this whole thing on a high, and here I am just being it's not. But no, I don't know. It's just the one thing that worries me because guess who is you guys ranked 20th in expected goals for percentage. The Sabres ranked 22nd. And we've had vastly different starts to the season. So just want to put some perspective in that. You guys got the goals now. And so with some puck luck going your way now, you got the points. If the puck luck goes away and you figure out how to play good hockey, you just got to hope that the puck luck doesn't go away too much longer. But as you said, you guys are playing well. You guys are making the smart plays, and I think in time, I do think it can become sustainable.
Yeah, you know what? I think there's a couple of things there. You're absolutely right. Demko's playing out of his mind, and shout out Casey DeSmith. I don't know how long it's been since we've had a good freaking backup goalie. Not since freaking we had an amazing starting goalie. I think since Luongo.
Most teams don't have one goalie.
Yeah,
let alone two.
Casey DeSmith was I was kind of iffy on the acquisition. No doubts about it. Worth every penny. Spectacular job so far. Everything you could ask for a backup. Doesn't play for 2 weeks and then comes in and plays like he's been playing, every other day. He's looked great. As far as expected goals and all that, I think the Canucks are a really good finishing team, and I think that's part of why that expected goals is at where it's at. Is they're just good at putting the puck in the net. And I think you're talking about lucky bounces. I think they create a lot of their lucky bounces, which is what I was talking about a little bit earlier with, people like Garland, people like Phil DiGiuseppe, kind of these forwards that go in hard on the forecheck. And a lot of what Tocchet preaches is, hard forecheck, hard back check, and create those turnovers and then converting on those. The first goal from yesterday, all Connor Garland. Kuzmenko might have sniped it past Sergei Bobrovsky. But that was all Connor Garland's forecheck to get him the puck there. And that's what I like about this team and why I think it's sustainable is if you listen to each of their post-game talks and stuff, they're always talking about improving and what they can do better and not being satisfied, which is a really nice change. Before it's oh, look, we've won 3 games out of 10. Look at us. We haven't lost all 10. That's great. But now they'll win 4 in a row. I think one game Pettersson had 3 points and he went and apologized to the coach for his performance. So
wow,
that's the mentality I want. We should be aiming for that A+ perfect game every time. And if we're not hitting that A+ game, we make whatever improvements we need to make and keep grinding. So I'm loving the mindset of this new team, the new players, and even the returning players. They're all locked in. So I think we can keep it up.
Well, it's one of those things. It's going to be really interesting for me to watch how the Canucks season progresses. We're going to talk weekly about it. We're going to see how they do. We're going to talk about the games, recap each week, because obviously we're starting midway through the season. That's why we're talking about the season. But, going forward, we're going to be talking about individual weeks. And I'm wondering how many of these weeks are you guys going to come out with over 50% of the points, right? Because PDO, which is a combination of shooting percentage and save percentage, usually hovers around 100. That's about average. That's most teams regress to 100 or progress to 100. You guys are sitting top of the league at 104 with a shooting percentage of 10.5, which is the best in the league, and a save percentage of 937, which is the second best in the league. Now, good teams do hover above 100, right? So, last year's Boston Bruins, if I can just get to it quickly, right? They were crazy last year. They finished at 103, right? The number 2 team was the Islanders at 101, the Leafs at 101 as well, and third, Rangers at 101, right? So you can see that it is possible to overperform PDO of 100, but you guys are probably on a little bit of a heater right now. I wouldn't be surprised to see you guys take a little bit of a step back, but with the rest of the teams in your division not really figuring it out. I mean, Edmonton being 14 points behind you, first of all, has got to feel great, but gives you that cushion, that you guys have racked up those points. Like I said, if a potential slide does come, now is your opportunity to, fix it, figure it out, have that growth mindset that you're saying they have, and adjust and continue to perform, because you guys got the vibes, you guys got the confidence, and you certainly have the talent. I mean, we talked about the top end talent there. I'm not worried at all about Quinn Hughes. Oh, is this sustainable, or is he just on a heater? I mean, Brock Besser's 27.5% shooting percentage would concern me if he's on my fantasy team, right? He's probably going to get cold for a couple weeks, but it is what it is. But overall, I think the Canucks are a team that, I mean, we did the season preview, right? We both predicted them to make the playoffs. And so far that's looking good. We had them as like a wild card too, though. They may end up getting there. I hope not, considering how well they've started. But I do think that they may end up dropping off a little bit, not pushing Vegas for the 1 seed in the Pacific. But all in all, I still think this is a playoff team.
It's interesting. There's 4 good teams in that division. If you look at it, there's obviously the Golden Knights, defending champs. There's the Canucks. You can consider them a good team, good goaltending, good defense, as we talked about, especially the top pairing and the top end talent. But I think the bottom 6 and the lower defense, especially now that we've brought some reinforcements, I think they're pretty solid as well. So I'm comfortable calling them a good team. The LA Kings have looked really good as well. And I think the Oilers before the last game were on an 8-game win streak. So they're going to come back and they're going to make the playoffs. It's just a matter of seeing how that division shakes out. I think the Canucks have right now, at least even if we consider point percentage, they're either second or third. LA and the Canucks are very close. But
they're fifth,
it's going to be interesting. Yeah,
right behind LA. Oh, I'm sorry. You're talking in your division. Yeah, you're third behind the Kings.
Yeah. Point percentage wise. Yes.
Yep.
So I think they could end up in that. I think they'll end up in that 3 seed, and they'll end up probably facing, honestly, from everyone I've talked to, a lot of people believe in the Kings a lot. And honestly, I kind of do too. So I could see the Kings actually shooting up there and taking the 1st seed. So we see a rematch of the Canucks Golden Knights. And then I think the Oilers would take that wild card 1. And then I'm not sure who would take the wild card 2. Probably someone from the Central, I think.
Yeah, the problem with the Central, you've got Nashville in 4th right now, right? So they've got 32 points, so they're technically wild card 1. I don't think they're a team that's going to be there. I mean, they're also on a heater right now. Speaking of heaters, Nashville's gone crazy. UC Saros and the boys have figured it out. At least for the last couple
fantasy
weeks.
Teams, Saros has been helping me out. He had a very slow start, but he's been picking me up some very valuable points. So thank you, Mr. Saros.
I almost debated dropping him just because my league gives so many points for wins. It's great. I hate my league structure. Anyway, we'll talk about fantasy maybe on a next podcast.
Yeah, that's a later episode.
But I think you're right. I think Edmonton dug themselves too big of a hole to start the season. I mean, sitting at, we're over a quarter of the way gone. We're 30 games into the season. We're almost over a third of the way into the season. Yeah, over a third, right? We only got 67% to go. Do they have enough? Obviously, the talent's there. They can obviously get hot, right? We've seen it happen before, but I think you're right. I think the Canucks are going to claim one of those 2 Pacific Division spots. Yeah. Like I said, even if there is some regression, but I think you guys have stacked the points, and I think the talent's good enough. So really, the Canucks, I'm excited to see you guys. I'm excited to see Demko, see how he does, and really see how long you guys can perform analytically, because right now the analytic telltales say that you guys should be in the 20s, like right around on the fringes looking in. But then again, looking at the rest of the conference, I mean, you guys are still a playoff team, even if you did have that PDO a little bit regressing, you know?
Yeah. No, definitely. Yeah.
Well, I guess when you're out of words to say, yeah, go to the Buffalo Sabres when you got nothing better to do. We talk about Buffalo, and why not? Because here we are, baby. We're back. Expectations here, reality here. Yeah, I love to see it. Oh man,
I always feel bad every single year. I always hear this poor gentleman to my side here, always so hyped, always talking about, Tage Thompson, look at him, he scored 68 points. Oh, now he scored 94 points. Oh, look at this, Jeff Skinner's getting his game back. Oh, look, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. Oh, look, Devin Levi. Oh, look, Rasmus Dahlin. And you know what, to some degree he's right, and usually they have a hot start before they inevitably let him down every year, and I feel very bad for him.
This year it's just they've won consecutive games just once. They beat Colorado, and then they beat Philly, and that was October 29th and November 1st. That is the last time the Buffalo Sabres have won back-to-back games. They currently have played more games than most teams in the East, and more than most in the Atlantic. The Buffalo Sabres currently sit second last in the Eastern Conference on points percentage, only ahead of the Columbus Blue Jackets, who are having a terrible year. I mean, their year started bad, and it was like August, right? They hadn't even dropped the puck yet, and they had a terrible year. But Buffalo, you know what? I'm still going to say it. I don't think we're dead. So many people, like the Sabres fans, are putting the nail in the coffin, saying, "Let's talk about the draft. Let's talk about next season." I don't think we're dead yet. I mean, the last couple games, minus this first period against Colorado. I mean, if I know you can't just pick and choose what parts of games to take, but listen, if you're trying to build consistency and trying to build something here, I feel like the game against Boston, great game. Oh my God, I thought we were going to go into. We were on a little bit of a skid. I thought we were going to get crushed by Boston. Then we play Montreal at home. We absolutely beat the pants off of them. We lose in a shootout because that's hockey, right? That's how our season's gone. I mean, Dylan Cousins is shooting like 5%. The buddy can't buy a break right now. He couldn't. Anyway, then we bounce back. I'm in person, right? I'm 17 rows up, center ice, upgraded tickets, right? We knock the doors off of Arizona.
Love that.
And we go to Colorado, and ouch. No shots in the first 18 and a half minutes.
Yeah, and to add on to that, Arizona's a good team too. Let's not forget, you're saying beating the brakes off Arizona. Any other year that'd be like, oh, well, what does that mean?
Right.
Arizona's a good year. They got 15 goal scorer Michael Carcone. So you actually had to do something right to beat them.
Oh, and I mean, we dominated. It was 5-1, and I don't think Arizona really ever threatened in that game. I mean, the Arizona Coyotes are 500, so. Like you said, they're not some bottom feeding team wallowing without any talent anymore. I think they got talent. They're going to be exciting, but man, I don't know. I don't know what it is. I think that the Sabres, the problem is this shift to the new defensive structure from Granato and the new, let's not just run and gun and win games 6-5. Let's win games 3-2, because there was a stat around last season. It was like when the Sabres score 4 or more, they were like 16, 4, and 2.
Ooh.
But when they scored 3 or fewer, they were like 5, 20, and 2 or something like that, something crazy. So they couldn't win if they couldn't score. Obviously, but
those are those are interesting stats. But it's always weird listening to those stats, because it's like, well, wouldn't you always want to score more goals, because technically those are isolated stats. You don't have to give up 4 goals every time you score 5. You can give up 0. I know you might not experience that very much, but it's possible to do. I saw it yesterday. We won 4-0.
Well, but it's one of those, it's like, you got to learn how to win games when you're not scoring. Like when the puck's just not going your way, when the goal, you're getting goal lead, right? You're dominating. You're just not scoring. You need to figure out how to win that game 2-1. Like look at our own division. We got the Bruins, right? You got Ullmark. He's putting up a worldie. you got to find a way to win these games, because in a best of 7, you're not going to be able to score 4+ a night.
No.
If you're going to win 16 times starting in late April, you're not going to win games if you're not scoring. And so that transition to this year with the let's play a bit more defensively, let's be a bit smarter. Guys feel a bit lost. Guys don't really feel like they got that juice. They got that step. Tage Thompson has looked like the best two-way forward I have ever seen. So credit to Tage Thompson. He's still elite, right? He's just, he's being asked to do something different, and he's becoming like one of the best defensive forwards in the game. Like, hello? Like, there was not too long ago, we wanted to shoot this guy into the sun. Nobody wanted to give Buffalo a bag of pucks for Tage Thompson. Now all of a sudden they take that deal in a heartbeat. But now it's just it's so frustrating, because this last year they were at the same point, right? I got the stats here. We had 30 points through 30 games last year. This year we have 27 through 30 games. But the vibes, so different. Oh, last year was like, oh, just get a goalie or get some defense or just figure it out offensively how to defend and keep the score, right? This year it's like, oh, sky is falling, season's over, blah, blah, blah. It's just, the vibes are so bad.
You know what it is? I think there's a couple of things, right? I know you mentioned, I think, switching to a new system. Like, and I think you've seen it with other teams as well. When you switch to a new system, generally it takes the players some time to get adjusted to it. Same thing with the Canucks last year. I think they caught on to talk it pretty fast, but it took a second. And I think I was looking at Tage's stats as well. He's not doing bad this year. 15 points in 21 games, especially when you're focusing more on your two-way game. It's a little lower point per game pace than his last 2 years, but still significant. And you're being led by Dahlin, who's having a great year point-wise. 24 points in 29 games for a defenseman. I know, again, blessed with Quinn Hughes and Philip Hronek who do that already, but generally speaking, you're not going to have defensemen who are up at point per game levels or close to it. So that's excellent. And Jeff Skinner, again, always nice when your big money players score.
That, not only that, but like we're talking about players we're happy about. How about that jump this year from JJ Peterka? He's my favorite player.
That's someone you've been waiting a long time on.
Oh my God. It's just been like, he played last year and he had flashes, right? But he didn't make the impact you wanted. This year, like, he's everywhere. He's like the quarterback. He's orchestrating things when he's out there. It's like the puck finds his stick. And those are the players you need to have, right? Those are the guys, as you can tell, when the puck just happens to find their stick and they feel like they're everywhere, that's when you can get excited about a player.
No, definitely. And I think, I don't know if this was 3 years ago, maybe. I remember JJ Peterka was what we back in the day would call a power play merchant. This year, just one power play goal out of his 12. So it's good to see him scoring even strength goals for sure.
Yeah. And if I'm going to give, any hope, I got a lot of hopium here. So you got to give me a minute. I wrote a bunch of stuff down here.
Been living off that.
I'm just over here also clicking on more stuff to give the Sabres fans more hope. So about through 30 games last year, the Florida Panthers only had 32 points in 30 games. They were only it's 5 points ahead of the Sabres' current pace, right? But they had transitioned to a new scheme under Paul Maurice, right? That was his first season with them. Joe Quenneville got let go. It's still a team with a ton of talent, right? But they bring in Paul Maurice in the offseason, right? So they're sitting at 32 through 30. And we all know what happened with them, right? They got hot, they figured out the system, and all of a sudden, went on this just beautiful tear down the stretch to make the postseason, right? They went 28, 20, and 4, right? 28, 20, and 4. I got my handy dandy sheet here, and that's only like 60 more points. So like, I totally feel like 28, 20, and 4 is definitely doable for the Sabres. I think we have the talent. I think we can adjust to the scheme like they did. I don't think it's crazy, right? And everybody wants to talk about, speaking of looking at last year, everyone wants to talk about, last year's team had more points. They also then went on a 9-1 run, and they also missed the playoffs, right? So it's just everybody's trying to get doomer clicks right here. But let me, so the Sabres, in their next 20, so after the first 30, so games 31 through 50, they went 12-6-2, which is 26 points and 65% point percentage. However, in games 51 through 70, They went 7-11-2 for 16 points and a 40% point percentage. So we want to talk about how great they did after this average start, but we don't want to talk about how they then shat the bed, put up 40% point percentage over 20 games. That's not a quarter of the 7-11 season.
You want.
That's horrible. Yeah. Like, and then of course the Sabres come within 1 point of making the playoffs in games 71 through 82 in that 11 game stretch. 12 game stretch, 9-2-1 with 19 points. So like,
that's nice.
We want like that. Last year's team was streaky. Yes, this team is behind it, but if this year's Sabres team can figure it out and just, we saw it like 60% points percentage. I've seen some numbers floating around that, the Sabres to make the postseason are going to need like 95 points, which is another 68. There's 52 games remaining. So it's like 68 divided by 104 is 65% points percentage. I don't think that's that crazy over an extended period of time. I think it's definitely doable. And if they end up going on a 58% point percentage or 60% point percentage and miss the playoffs, but at least they're in the 90s, right? Then you're close, right? And you built something. You figured out how to play this better style of hockey. So I'm not ready to call the season over yet. And just, some stats and numbers for people to get excited about.
Yay!
But yes,
I know.
More numbers. But no, I think the team, we've seen it over these last, Boston, Montreal, Arizona, and tonight's game against Vegas will be telling, right? They just got their pants beat off them against Colorado, right? They didn't look good to start. They bounced back and like made the advanced analytics look good, but at that point, Colorado was up 3-0 or 3-1 after one. So I guess it wasn't over, but then they put in 2 more. It was easy as you like, and they could just kind of coast. But they did put in a strong like comeback effort against them. So we'll see if they start hot against Jack Eichel and the Vegas Golden Knights tonight in Vegas. Right. I mean, it's not a great it's not another game where you just want to bounce back. Right. You'd love a cupcake. You'd love a San Jose or something like that after that game. But hey, it might
tell you what,
be
man, San Jose hasn't been a cupcake. Maybe in the first 10 games, Fabian Zetterlund, Hurdle, these guys are legit. They're playing very well.
The guys
6-2-2 in the last 10, man. 6-2-2.
Okay, they're still scoring they're scoring 2.2 goals for per game and 3.9 against per game. Listen, that's not just 10 games. That's more than 10 games.
Yeah. No, for sure.
But all of that to say that I think tonight's game, obviously I don't have the luxury of watching it. It's almost 7 p.m. now, but I don't have the luxury of watching it. So while this podcast is going on Monday, the viewers will be more informed than I am. Hopefully we'll all be happy because the Sabres won a good game against Vegas and look good. And then we're going to say,
win too.
Well, 4 out of the last 5 games, they look good. Yeah, I'm sure you do, right? Trying to climb to 1 if you can. But, like 4 out of the last 5 games saying they put in a really good effort and they got points in 4 of 5. Then, that may quiet down the doomers just a bit.
Yeah, I think you made some really great points there. The one thing, again, I don't give up, Sabres fans, don't give up. But you have a lot of people in your way, right? So 8 teams from each conference make the playoffs, and you have your 3 divisional and your 2 wild cards. So in your way right now, if we exclude the divisionals from both sides, is you have Detroit, Tampa, Montreal, Carolina, Washington, New Jersey, Pittsburgh. Those are all the teams that are beating you in points. That's 7. Yeah. I can't count my own fingers.
Yeah, no, like I said, we are second last on points percentage too. So if you look at points percentage, even Ottawa is ahead of us. And so
you don't have to worry about them. It's okay. I'm gonna go. I say, don't worry, Sabre. You don't have to worry about Ottawa. But that's 8 teams competing for 2 spots, right? I don't mean to go all doomer gloomer. Absolutely, if you guys pull out the points, you'll be all right. But Tampa just got Vasilevsky back. Detroit's kind of getting it together. I know they have some injuries, so maybe there's some room there. But you're competing for very few slots with a lot of people. If the Devils start getting goaltending, they're going to shoot up and they might even make a divisional spot, right? Same thing, Carolina. There's a lot of teams here that have more upside to get. So I know you mentioned a 65 point percentage. It might be difficult. I think it feels like a lot more teams this year are hovering around that 500 level a lot longer than they were in previous years. And I think it's led to some really fun hockey and some really fun stuff. Like even the Sharks, right? We were just crapping on the Sharks, but like they were horrible for those first month or so, and now they're 6-2-2. Now Anaheim's taking their spot. They're 1-9 in their last 10, and they've actually dropped below them in points, which is incredible.
Yeah, Anaheim was a team I had no time for. Like, I'm like, do something. Show me any reason that you have a pulse. But to your point, I think there's some teams up ahead of the Sabres right now that are pretenders, that are kind of riding that wave early, and as things get on through the season, I think they're the kind of team that may end up regressing and dropping back down. I think, I don't trust the Islanders. I don't trust the Canadians. They're 1 point ahead of us, right? But talking about teams in a playoff spot right now, I don't think the Islanders finish in a playoff spot. I don't think the Flyers finish in a playoff spot. I don't think the Capitals finish in a playoff spot.
Oh, that's an interesting one.
Well, aren't the Capitals, didn't they have like the fewest amount of goals for they've got the Washington Capitals have a single more goal than the San Jose Sharks.
When you put it like that.
They have a -9 goal differential right now and a -0.35 per game, right? So that's a team that I think is riding that kind of that wave, that early season they're getting ways to win. Is that sustainable? No, I don't think you can make the playoffs. Well, I mean, I think last year maybe Florida did, but listen, as for what I'm setting my sights on, most teams don't make the playoffs with a negative goal difference, right? And unless something changes in Washington, maybe Ovi gets hot or something like that. I don't know, right? Like Tom Wilson is their leading point getter right now. Dylan Strome leads them in goals. So, I mean, maybe Ovi's going to find his groove. I don't know. That's a team that's, I'm focusing in on them because they're a team that screams like, yes, they're in a playoff spot. No, they're not going to finish there. That's what they just scream to me.
Yeah. So sorry, just to point there, the lowest goal differential to make the playoffs last year was Florida at a +17.
Plus 17.
To be fair, the Sabres were 1 point away, were a -4. So if they had made the playoffs, gotten one extra win, one extra goal for there somewhere, they could have made it with a -3. So that would have destroyed the whole point of needing a good plus-minus.
Well,
but using that anomaly and using the facts as they are, they didn't. So you need at least a +17 to make the playoffs.
Yeah, that's what it was last year. Oh God, I'm trying to find out like man, I got to do the math in my head. I can't do the math in my head that quickly. Either way, I still think there's hope. They did not do themselves any favors, right? Like if we had gotten you guys, like if we were riding on 40 points, but the analytics people were like, I don't know, maybe pump the brakes. I'd rather be in that position than the analytics look bad and the results look bad and the effort looks bad and you are bad,
You are bad.
Let's just call a spade here, right? If it walks like a duck and talks like a duck, it's a duck.
If it can't score and it can't make a save, it's a bad hockey team.
Also a duck.
Also a duck. You're John Gibson.
Well, I think we've kind of exhausted the whole Sabres thing. I could talk about the Sabres for hours, right? And I think we did spend more time about the Sabres than we did about the Canucks. So I apologize for that. Well, I'll get you back next week. Well, listen, when things are good, there's not a lot to say.
Yeah, like we said earlier, I just had nothing else to say because how many times can I just say I love having two defensemen, who are like at least 25 points in 29 games. Quinn Hughes, leading an offense, looking beautiful. It's just at some point it just almost feels disingenuous to just keep saying nice things for so long. I'm
That's
waiting
why I'm here.
I'm waiting for the meteor to come crashing down and crush me where I stand.
Yeah, I'll give you weekly XG updates. So. There's that meteor for you. Just wait for that text from me. But, usually now that we've talked about our teams, we'd probably talk about the conferences. But considering we've had like 30 games gone, there's so much going on. I think we'll save that for next week. So, before we go ahead and wrap up this episode, I think we'll replace that segment with, what are your thoughts? I know the NBA has been doing it, but what about in-season cup, in-season tournament? What are your thoughts? Because I love it. I'm all for it. I'm about it.
I see pros and cons, right? Obviously, the big thing I think people bring up is there's two things. A, it just seems like a lesser trophy compared to the Stanley Cup, of course, because it comes quicker. Kind of same thing as the NBA. That's kind of seemed like it's like what do they call it? The Mickey Mouse Cup or whatever. The other thing is obviously you're risking injuries. I think if you're incorporating it within regular games, you're not creating more games, I think it's okay. But obviously you're going to put in more effort, play your stars, longer minutes, all that stuff, which leaves them more susceptible to injury. They're going to play a little harder because it's for something, right? But I also, as we've seen in the NBA, on the positive side, it's been spectacular for ratings. All their ratings have gone up. The games have been more entertaining. Just what I love is people scoring in garbage time because goal differential matters. Yeah, I want to see them go for 10. I don't want to see this humble stuff like, oh, let's just dump it in. No, score 12 goals. Score 12 goals.
Well, and then, speaking of the goal difference thing, that would definitely add to the, do you pull your goalie? Right? Because right now there's no problem if you don't pull your goalie because you just lose, you lose. But if goal difference is a thing, then you might want to not pull your goalie.
It's so entertaining in IIHF hockey and the Olympics because you see some of those like lower tier countries. You see a Latvia, they're okay just to lose, or they're okay to lose by 1 goal because they'll get to move on to the next round. Maybe they can upset a Goliath in Canada or whatever, right?
Right.
It's always I love a good strategy, So
that makes it
think
so much
cool.
fun.
Yeah.
So to your point about the whole games and whatnot, I think that the tournament games should count as as regular season games. You get 2 points in the standings, and you might advance in the cup, right? In the mid-season cup. Now, I understand it doesn't have the prestige, but I'm just kind of looking at attendance in the NHL. While it doesn't have an attendance problem, I mean, there are teams down there at the bottom, the Columbuses. I mean, Buffalo. If we get a chance to win a cup, I'm pretty sure more Buffalo people would end up buying tickets. And I think that goes, league wide, right? The NHL has always been one of those like, a Tuesday night, 7 p.m., barns full. Like, I don't know how they do it, how it's been so ingrained, but it is one of those things. But you look at these teams like San Jose is at 75%. It would give those teams, something to play for. Winnipeg's at 80% attendance. The Sabres are at 81. I don't know how we're at 81, but we are. The Islanders are at 84%, right? So and some of those are good teams, right? So you'd expect to get some attendance boost. And I think, you got to give the players a reason to play for it, right? Like you said, it's not the Stanley Cup. It's just the midseason cup, right? We can debate the name on it, whatever. It's the midseason cup, right?
Yeah.
Give a big cash prize, right? I don't think the NHL's lacking money. Got to incentivize the players. I don't know how you can incentivize the teams, but
here's a hot take. This is something I wanted to see the NBA do too. In the NBA, I'm not sure what it would be, the equivalent would be in the NHL, but I wanted to see the NBA put up a draft pick, in between the first and second round, put that up for the winning team. Because that's a tangible advantage, and every team, even tanking teams, have the best incentive to go for it, right? I don't know if that'd be the equivalent of a second round, the 65th overall pick, gets inserted in there for whoever wins it. It's
okay, so you're talking asset. End of the second round? Because what I'm thinking is, if you did end of the first round, that's a free first. I mean, it's technically
that's a lot. That's a lot. I think there'd be opposition to that, right? That's why I compromise.
I actually really like that idea. You're talking it's a day 2 pick, right? You got all the pomp and circumstance on night 1. It's first rounders, right? We're talking first, whatever.
Yeah.
First pick of the second round, you get to start off the next day of the draft. The NHL can make a big deal about it. They can market it the Vancouver Canucks were awarded pick number 33 thanks to them winning the whatever, pick a famous legend here, right?
The Daniel Sedin Cup.
Yeah, sure, whatever. The Dominic Hasek Cup, right? I did listen to somebody else mentioned that the Bobby Orr Cup. That sounds pretty good. They gotta give credit. Gotta give credit to the Empty Netters on that one. They came up with that one, but they're on the right track, right? You got to come up with the Stanley Cup is fine. Maybe you come up with, I don't know, the Trudeau Cup,
the Makita Trophy.
There you go. But no, I think the 33rd overall pick is a great incentive for teams that hey, I get the first pick of the second round. It's practically a first rounder. And I get it for just my guys playing. It'll decentivize tanking to some extent, I assume.
Oh, definitely. Well, you want a draft pick. That's how you that's the whole point of tanking, right? Is so you get a higher draft pick. That's why you sell off your players, is to get more draft picks. So if you can win and get more draft picks, that's a win-win. Right?
I personally don't see like you said, it's a win for everybody, right? The owners get more money because they're selling out more and they can maybe charge a little bit more. I hope not, but they could, right? The players, they get a check. They get to play like Bedard and the boys. They get to win the first ever, right? Like if it was this season, Bedard's rookie season, he wins the first ever, Sedin Cup.
Yeah.
And then GMs, they're not incentivized to just throw everybody away, before February, because like say, the cup final is what, December, Christmas, something like that. Like, you know what? I saw this. I think I saw this on Bleacher Report online. The final would be the Winter Classic.
Oh, that'd be so cool.
How awesome. Like
and that's how you get different teams involved.
Yep.
Oh, that's sick. I love that.
So I guess you could do, it would have to be, because that's probably a lot. I'm thinking about like logistics and planning. I think you'd have to say like any of the finalists would have to come up with a plan, but I'm thinking like Detroit makes it out of their half, and Colorado makes it out of their half because they're just good, right? You could have a game in the Winter Classic in Denver or the Winter Classic at the Big House with a chance to lift the Sedin Cup for the first time with a big cash prize and a 33rd overall on the line. I mean, like, that is, I'm getting pumped up just thinking about it.
That sounds spectacular. I think you'd want to have it at a neutral site. I think that's what the NBA did as well. So maybe you just have a nice, like, it might help too, either having it in like a colder part of America or in Canada, in the middle of winter. You're going to be a lot more likely to be able to get that sustainable ice instead of, when it's hot and you're trying to do an ice rink, it kind of gets messy. Another thing you didn't mention revenue wise is TV deals, right?
Yes.
If you're having games where people are watching more, you're bringing up the average, and again, the NHL can generate more revenue through those TV deals. So that's another source, another reason to be happy. And I agree. I know I wanted to start off by playing a little bit of the contrarian and talking about the negatives, but overall, if I had a choice, I could either hit the big red button and we get the in-season tournament, or I could not, and I wouldn't. I would smash that big red button, and I'd be very excited for it.
Oh yeah, I mean, like the Sedin Cup exclusively on ESPN Plus. Like, come on, like you can just, I just see it.
That's so marketable.
New Year's Day, watch the Blackhawks take on the Bruins on ABC, right? Like, outdoor in the Big House in Michigan, right? Like that's it right there. It's
just the vibes. It's the same thing with like World Juniors, right? Watching the World Juniors on Christmas and into the new year. That time when you're with family and stuff, it's good. It's the same thing with football, right? People have that Sunday night or Sunday afternoon tradition of getting the family together, having some beers and watching some football. Having that tradition, in the winter time of watching hockey together. I think if you have the in-season cup and you make it a thing the way the World Juniors are, I think you can build up a fan base, and maybe not to the same extent as the NFL, but you can make it a thing, in America and Canada, on December 31st, you all gather together, and you get your chicken wings and you watch the cup. You watch the Sedin Cup or the Hasek Cup.
Yep. Yeah, whatever. We'll debate the name next week. We'll come up with something in there. But I honestly, like, I brought this up. I had a couple things I wanted to talk about, but man, like, we got into so much about this cup, and I'm excited for it. There's so much untapped potential there, especially if they just count as regular season games, right? You're talking like game 32, like the Sabres tonight against the Vegas Golden Knights. Like, hey, we got to shake that one off, boys. Like, we could get eliminated from the cup tonight. Like, all of a sudden, it adds that extra layer. So.
100%.
I don't know, man. I had fun. I hope you did. I hope the viewers, I hope you guys did too. Those of you listening on your podcasting platform, make sure to leave us a very kind 5-star review and give us your thoughts. If you're on YouTube, leave a comment down in the comment section, like and subscribe. And we will catch you guys next Monday, where we talk about, hopefully, the Sabres bouncing back.
Hopefully. Bye, guys.